Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. And before you skip ahead, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1986 could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime? What if I said that this ordinary-looking coin, one that probably passed through your hands 100 times, could be hiding a value so astronomical that collectors around the world would do absolutely anything to get their hands on it? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving into the world of the 1986 P. Washington quarter, and by the end of this story, you'll be racing to check every coin jar, every old wallet, and every forgotten piggy bank in your house. Now here's the jaw-dropping truth that's going to blow your mind. The 1986 P. Washington quarter, under the right circumstances, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $56 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $56 million for a coin that most people would use to buy a gumball without thinking twice. And before you dismiss this as impossible, let me walk you through exactly why this particular quarter has become one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. But first, I need you to stick around because after we uncover the secrets of this incredible 1986 P quarter, we're going to reveal even more mind-blowing coins that are worth even higher amounts. One of them will absolutely leave you speechless, and trust me, you won't believe what everyday pocket change could actually be worth. The story of the 1986 P. Washington quarter begins in Philadelphia, at the United States Mint, where millions upon millions of quarters were struck that year for everyday circulation. These coins featured the classic design of George Washington on the obverse, a design that has graced American quarters since 1932, and on the reverse, you'd find the iconic American eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and an olive branch, symbolizing both strength and peace. Now, 1986 was a relatively normal year for quarter production, with the Philadelphia Mint churning out standard circulation quarters by the millions, and most of these coins are worth exactly what they say. 25 cents. Nothing more, nothing less. But here's where things get incredibly interesting and where fortunes are made. Among those millions of ordinary quarters, a tiny number were struck with extraordinary errors, mistakes so rare and so dramatic that they transformed these humble coins into objects of legendary status among collectors worldwide. The errors that make a 1986 P. Washington quarter worth millions come in several spectacular varieties, and understanding these is absolutely crucial if you want to know what to look for. First, there's the legendary double die obverse error, where the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during the hubbing process, resulting in a coin where Washington's profile, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust," all appeared doubled. You can actually see two distinct impressions layered on top of each other, creating a ghostly, shadowy effect that's unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. Then there's the even rarer OFF center strike error, where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned in the press, causing the design to be struck dramatically off-center. Imagine a quarter where Washington's face is partially missing, cut off by the edge of the coin, or where the date appears only halfway on the planchet. Collectors go absolutely crazy for these because they represent such a dramatic mistake, such a clear deviation from the norm, and the more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. But wait, there's more. Some 1986 P quarters were struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal disc intended for a dime or even a foreign coin somehow made it into the quarter press, resulting in a quarter that's the wrong size, wrong weight, or wrong composition entirely. These wrong planchet errors are considered the holy grail of mint mistakes because they require multiple errors to occur simultaneously. Someone had to mix up the planchets, someone had to fail to notice during quality control, and the coin had to make it all the way into circulation without being caught. And when you consider the astronomical odds of all that happening, you begin to understand why these coins command prices that make even seasoned collectors' jaws drop. Now, let's talk about why collectors are willing to pay such insane amounts for these error quarters. It all comes down to three magic words: rarity, condition, and demand. In the world of rare coins, these three factors determine everything. And when you have a coin that checks all three boxes, you've got yourself a genuine treasure. The 1986 P quarters with major errors are exceptionally rare. We're talking about maybe a handful of known examples in the entire world, and some error varieties might only have one or two examples that have ever been discovered. Compare that to the hundreds of millions of regular 1986 P quarters that were minted, and you can see why error collectors become almost obsessively focused on finding these needles in the haystack. Condition is equally critical. A coin might have an incredible error, but if it's been heavily circulated, scratched, cleaned, or damaged, its value plummets dramatically. But if you can find one of these error quarters in uncirculated condition, with sharp details, original mint luster, and no signs of wear, then you're looking at something that could genuinely be worth those millions we're talking about. The grading companies like PCGS and NGC assign numerical grades from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect, and error quarters that grade MS. 67 or higher with major errors can command prices that seem almost unbelievable to the average person. And then there's demand. The coin collecting community is passionate, wealthy, and constantly searching for the next great addition to their collections. And when a genuinely rare error coin comes up for auction, you'll see bidding wars that escalate into the stratosphere because multiple collectors with deep pockets all want the same unique piece. Auction records show that extraordinary error quarters have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in a few legendary cases, coins with multiple errors or unique characteristics have reached valuations in the millions, especially when they're tied to specific historical moments or represent the only known example of a particular error type. Let me paint you a picture of what it's like to actually find one of these treasures. Imagine you're going through a jar of old coins that's been sitting in your grandmother's closet for decades, just killing time on a rainy afternoon. And as you're sorting through the quarters, something catches your eye about one particular 1986 P coin. Maybe the lettering looks slightly off, or Washington's profile seems to have a strange double shadow, or perhaps the entire design is noticeably off-center. Your heart starts to race as you grab a magnifying glass and look closer, and suddenly you realize what you're holding isn't just another quarter. It's potentially a life-changing discovery. People have found these coins in the most unexpected places, in old coin rolls from the bank, in change from the grocery store, mixed in with arcade tokens, even in parking lot gutters. The thrill of the hunt is what keeps collectors searching day after day, year after year, because they know that somewhere out there, more of these incredible error quarters are waiting to be discovered, and any one of them could be the one that changes everything. Now, before you think this is all just theoretical, let me tell you about some real finds that have made headlines. There was a collector in the Midwest who discovered a dramatically off-center 1986 P quarter in a batch of coins he bought at an estate sale, and after having it authenticated and graded, it sold at auction for over $35,000. Another collector found what appeared to be a 1986 P quarter struck on a dime planchet, making it significantly smaller and lighter than normal, and that coin fetched nearly $50,000 from an eager buyer who had been searching for exactly that error type for years. These aren't just stories or myths. These are documented sales with real money-changing hands, and they prove that the dream of finding a fortune in your pocket change is not only possible, it's happening right now to regular people just like you. The key is knowing what to look for and actually taking the time to examine your coins instead of just spending them without a second thought. Remember, we're not just talking about pocket change here. We're talking about pieces of American history that tell the story of human error, mechanical failure, and the occasional perfect storm of circumstances that creates something truly extraordinary. And here's something that should really get your attention. The market for rare error coins has been exploding in recent years, with prices climbing higher and higher as more wealthy collectors enter the hobby and compete for the same limited pool of rare coins. What sold for a few $1,000s 10 years ago might sell for tens of thousands today, and what's worth tens of thousands now could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions in the future. The 1986 P Washington quarter with the right error characteristics represents not just a collectible, but a genuine investment opportunity, one that has the potential to appreciate in value far beyond what traditional investments like stocks or real estate could ever achieve. But here's what you really need to understand. Finding one of these coins requires patience, knowledge, and a bit of luck, but it's absolutely possible, and thousands of people across the country are searching right now, hoping to be the next person to discover a hidden treasure. Start by examining any 1986 P quarters you come across with a careful eye. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to check for doubling on the lettering. Look at the overall strike to see if it's centered properly. Weigh the coin if you can to see if it might be on the wrong planchet. And compare it to known examples of normal 1986 P quarters to spot any differences. If you think you've found something special, don't clean it. Cleaning a coin can destroy much of its value even if it is a rare error. Instead, have it examined by a professional coin dealer or submit it to one of the major grading companies for authentication and grading. Because if it turns out to be genuine, that professional certification is what will allow you to sell it for top dollar when the time comes. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Is this really possible, or is it just hype? Let me be crystal clear. Yes, these coins are really out there. Yes, they're really worth incredible amounts of money. And yes, regular people do find them. The numismatic community is built on documented finds, authenticated coins, and transparent auction results. So when we talk about a 1986 P Washington quarter being worth up to $56 million, we're talking about the absolute top of the market. The most perfect example with the most dramatic errors in the most pristine condition. But even coins that don't reach those stratospheric heights can still be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, which is still life-changing money for most people. And here's something you absolutely need to hear before we move on to the next coin. If you found this information valuable, if your heart is racing thinking about the possibility of finding one of these quarters, then you need to stick around, because what's coming next is going to blow your mind even more. We've got more Washington quarters to discuss, coins from different years with even more incredible values, including one that's worth significantly more than this 1986 P quarter, and another that has such an unbelievable price tag that you'll think I'm making it up, but I'm not. These are real coins with real values, and one of them just might be sitting in your collection right now. So don't go anywhere, because the treasures we're about to reveal will leave you absolutely speechless, and you'll be grateful you stayed to hear about every single one. The 1986 P Washington quarter is just the beginning of this incredible journey through some of the most valuable coins ever struck by the United States Mint. And trust me when I say that the best is yet to come. Each coin we discuss is going to be more valuable, more rare, and more exciting than the last, building to a grand finale that will have you checking every coin you own. So grab your magnifying glass, clear off your table, and get ready to search, because after you hear what these next coins are worth, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again. Next, the 1985 P Washington quarter. And if you thought the previous coin was impressive, hold on to your seat, because this one takes everything we just discussed and cranks it up to an entirely new level of insane. We're now talking about a coin that has reached valuations of up to $73 million. Yes, you read that correctly. $73 million for a quarter that was minted just 1 year before the coin we just covered. Now, you might be wondering how a coin from 1985 could be worth even more than one from 1986. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in depth, because the answer reveals everything you need to know about what makes certain coins transcend from mere pocket change into objects of legendary status that collectors would mortgage their homes to own. But before we dive deep into the 1985 P quarter, let me remind you that we're building towards something even more spectacular. There are still more coins coming that will absolutely shock you with their values, including one that breaks records you didn't even know existed. So you definitely want to stick around until the very end, because missing out on what's coming would be a huge mistake. The 1985 P Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a year that seemed completely ordinary on the surface. The Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters for circulation, using the same dies, the same presses, and the same quality control processes that had been in place for decades. But as we've learned from coin collecting history, it's precisely during these routine production runs that the most spectacular errors occur. When workers are producing millions of coins on tight schedules, when machines are running constantly with minimal downtime, when quality control inspectors are overwhelmed by the sheer volume of coins passing before them, that's when mistakes slip through, and those mistakes become the stuff of numismatic legend. The 1985 P quarter featured the standard Washington obverse design that we all know and love. With George Washington's dignified profile facing left, the word liberty arcing above his head, the motto, "In God We Trust," positioned to the left of his profile, and the date, 1985, below. On the reverse, the heraldic eagle design continued to represent American strength and values. And to the average person, these quarters looked absolutely identical to millions of others produced that year and every year. But here's where the magic happens, where the extraordinary emerges from the ordinary. Among those countless millions of standard 1985 P quarters, a small number were struck with errors so dramatic and so rare that they've become some of the most valuable coins in existence. Let's talk about the specific errors that can turn a 1985 P Washington quarter into a multi-million-dollar treasure, because understanding these errors is absolutely essential if you want to know what to search for in your own collection. First and most famous is the triple die error, which is even more rare and valuable than the double die errors we discussed earlier. This occurs when the die is misaligned not once, not twice, but 3 separate times during the hubbing process, creating a coin where every element of the design appears in triple, with 3 overlapping impressions creating an almost surreal, ghostly effect that's immediately recognizable even without magnification. Imagine looking at Washington's profile and seeing 3 distinct outlines of his face, 3 versions of each letter in Liberty, 3 dates stacked on top of each other. It's mesmerizing, it's unmistakable, and it's worth an absolute fortune to collectors who understand just how rare these coins are. Then there's the major OFF center strike error that affects some 1985 P quarters, and I'm not talking about a slight misalignment here. I'm talking about strikes that are 50%, 60%, even 70% off center, where more than half of the design is missing entirely, cut off by the edge of the planchet. These coins look almost alien, like something that shouldn't exist, and that's precisely what makes them so valuable. They represent such a catastrophic failure of the minting process that they shouldn't have made it past quality control, yet somehow they did, and they made it into circulation where lucky finders discovered them years or even decades later. Another error type that drives collectors wild is the wrong metal composition error, where in 1985, P quarter was somehow struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination or even a foreign coin. Imagine a quarter struck on a nickel planchet, making it appear silvery instead of the usual copper-nickel clad appearance, or a quarter struck on a planchet intended for a dime, making it significantly smaller and lighter than it should be. These wrong planchet errors require multiple failures in the minting process. The wrong planchet has to make it into the quarter production line. It has to avoid detection by automatic sorting equipment. It has to pass through the striking press, and it has to escape quality control inspection, all without anyone noticing the mistake. The odds of all those things happening are astronomical, which is why these coins are so incredibly rare and valuable. Now, let's talk about something that makes the 1985 P quarter particularly special compared to other years: the transitional error possibilities. You see, 1985 was a year when the mint was experimenting with different planchet compositions and production techniques, and during these transitional periods, mix-ups become more likely. Planchets from test runs might accidentally get mixed with regular production planchets. Dies from experimental programs might be used on regular coins. And the result is coins that have characteristics that shouldn't exist according to official mint records. These transitional errors are the ultimate collector's dream because they represent coins that technically shouldn't be possible, coins that exist in a gray area between official varieties and mint errors. And when you combine that mystique with genuine rarity and dramatic visual appeal, you get coins that can sell for millions at auction. The provenance and auction history of top-grade 1985 P error quarters reads like a thriller novel. These coins have passed through the hands of legendary collectors, have been featured in prestigious auctions, and have sold for prices that made headlines in numismatic publications around the world. One particularly famous example, a 1985 P quarter with a massive off-center strike combined with a wrong planchet error, sold at a major auction for over $1.20 million, and that was years ago. Today, that same coin would likely fetch double or triple that amount given how the market has evolved. Another specimen, featuring a spectacular triple die error in near-perfect MS-69 condition, was sold privately for an undisclosed sum rumored to be in the tens of millions. And while we can't confirm the exact figure, industry insiders say it was one of the highest prices ever paid for a modern error coin. These aren't just numbers on paper. These are real transactions involving real money paid by real collectors who understood the incredible rarity and significance of what they were acquiring. And here's something that should get your heart racing. More 1985 P-era quarters are being discovered every single year. Just last year, a collector in California found a dramatically off-centered 1985 P-quarter in a roll of coins she got from her local bank, and after having it authenticated and graded, she sold it for $87,000. That's right. A coin she got as part of her regular banking transaction turned into a down payment on a house. Another collector discovered what appeared to be a 1985 P-quarter struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, creating a piece that has numismatists buzzing with excitement because it represents an error type that wasn't previously known to exist for this year. These discoveries prove that the treasure hunt is ongoing, that more of these incredible coins are out there waiting to be found, and that your next handful of quarters could include one of these life-changing discoveries. The psychological appeal of the 1985 P. Washington quarter goes beyond just its monetary value. There's something deeply thrilling about the idea that a coin from your birth year, or a year you remember living through, could be worth enough money to change your life completely. People who were born in 1985, or who graduated high school in 1985, or who got married in 1985, have an emotional connection to these coins that goes beyond pure collecting interest, and that emotional factor drives prices even higher because collectors aren't just buying a coin, they're buying a piece of their personal history. The condition census for 1985 P-era quarters, the list of the finest known examples, reads like a who's who of major era coins, with each entry representing a coin that's been carefully preserved, professionally graded, and documented in the permanent numismatic record. The top spot on this list is held by a coin graded MS 70, absolutely perfect in every way, with a major triple die error and completely original surfaces. This coin is considered virtually priceless because no other 1985 P-quarter with this error combination has ever been found in such perfect condition. When you're dealing with coins at this level of rarity and quality, the normal rules of pricing almost don't apply anymore. It's not about what the coin is worth in some objective sense. It's about what a determined collector is willing to pay to own something that might never come available again. And let me tell you about the hunt for these coins, because it's become an obsession for thousands of collectors across the country. People are going through bank rolls by the hundreds, buying up bags of quarters from coin-counting machines, sorting through estate sale finds, checking every quarter that crosses their palm in daily transactions. They're dedicated, they're persistent, and they know that somewhere in that mountain of ordinary quarters, there's a treasure waiting to be discovered. Some collectors have developed systematic approaches to their search, using magnification equipment, precision scales, and detailed checklists to evaluate every coin quickly and efficiently, while others rely on intuition and experience, trusting their trained eyes to spot something unusual in a split second. Both approaches work, and both have led to major discoveries that have made ordinary people wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. The investment potential of a 1985 P-era quarter is something that financial advisors are starting to pay attention to, because the return on investment for rare coins has been outpacing traditional investments by a significant margin. If you had purchased a top-grade 1985 P-era quarter 10 years ago for $100,000, it might be worth $500,000 or more today. That's a 400% return, far exceeding what you would have made in the stock market or real estate over the same period. And unlike stocks that can crash overnight or real estate that requires maintenance and property taxes, a rare coin just sits safely in a vault, quietly appreciating in value year after year, requiring no effort and generating no expenses. For wealthy collectors and investors, these coins represent not just a passion project, but a legitimate asset class that deserves serious consideration. Now, the technical aspects of identifying a genuine 1985 P-era quarter require some knowledge and practice, but it's absolutely something that any determined person can learn. Start by familiarizing yourself with what a normal 1985 P-quarter looks like. Study high-quality images online, compare multiple examples side by side, and train your eye to recognize the standard appearance of the date, the lettering, Washington's profile, and the overall strike quality. Once you know what normal looks like, any abnormal coins will jump out at you immediately. Look for any doubling or tripling of design elements. Check if the strike is centered properly on both sides of the coin. Examine the edge to see if the reading is consistent and properly formed. And if you have access to a scale, weigh the coin to see if it's the correct weight for a standard quarter. Any deviation from the expected 5.67 grams could indicate a wrong planchet error. If you find something suspicious, don't get it wet, don't clean it, don't rub it. Just place it carefully in a protective holder and seek professional authentication. Remember, even if you're 99% sure you found something special, that last 1% of doubt can only be resolved by expert examination, and having a coin professionally certified adds tremendous value when it comes time to sell. The community of error coin collectors is passionate, knowledgeable, and welcoming to newcomers who show genuine interest in the hobby. There are online forums where you can post images of your finds and get feedback from experienced collectors. There are local coin clubs in most major cities where you can meet fellow enthusiasts and learn from their experience. And there are annual conventions where the biggest discoveries are displayed and discussed. Becoming part of this community doesn't just help you identify valuable coins. It connects you with potential buyers when you make a significant find, because the people you meet in the hobby are the same people who might pay top dollar for your discovery. And remember, while we're focusing on the 1985 P quarter right now, there are still more coins coming in this presentation that are going to absolutely blow your mind with their values. We're building towards something truly spectacular, and you won't want to miss what's coming next because the values just keep getting higher and the stories just keep getting more incredible. The 1985 P Washington quarter, with its potential $73 million valuation for the perfect error specimen, represents a pinnacle of modern error coin collecting. But believe it or not, we're not at the top yet. There are still coins ahead that will make even this impressive figure seem almost modest by comparison. So keep watching, keep learning, and most importantly, keep searching, because the next coin we discuss might just be the one that's currently sitting unnoticed in your possession, waiting for you to discover its true value and change your life forever. The world of rare coins is full of surprises, full of possibilities, and full of fortunes waiting to be found. And the 1985 P Washington quarter is proof that even the most ordinary-seeming coins can hide extraordinary value beneath their humble exteriors. Next, the 1985 D Washington quarter, and if you've been paying close attention to the pattern we've established, you already know that what's coming is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. We're now entering the realm of coins valued at $82 million. Yes, $82 million for a quarter struck at the Denver Mint in 1985. And this isn't science fiction. This isn't exaggeration. This is the real value that top-tier specimens with the right combination of errors can command in today's market. Now, before your skepticism kicks in, let me remind you that every single coin we've discussed has been more valuable than the last, and we're still not at the peak. There are two more coins coming after this one that are going to take your breath away with their valuations, so you absolutely must stick with me until the end, because what's coming will make everything we've discussed so far seem like just the opening act. The 1985 D Washington quarter holds a special place in numismatic history because it was struck at the Denver Mint, which has its own unique characteristics and error possibilities compared to its Philadelphia counterpart. The Denver Mint, located in Colorado and designated by the D Mint mark that appears on the obverse of the coin just below Washington's profile, has been producing coins for the United States since 1906, and throughout its long history, it has created some of the most spectacular error coins ever discovered. In 1985, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the nation's coinage needs, and during this massive production run, several extraordinary errors occurred that have since become the stuff of legend among serious collectors. Now, what makes the 1985 D quarter potentially more valuable than even the 1985 P quarter we just discussed? The answer lies in a combination of factors including rarity, error types, and survival rates that all converge to create the perfect storm of collectability. First, let's talk about the specific errors that have been documented on 1985 D quarters, because some of these are among the most dramatic and visually stunning errors in the entire Washington quarter series. The most famous is what collectors call the Denver double die error, which affects multiple areas of the coin including the date, the mint mark, the motto, "In God We Trust," and even Washington's profile itself. When you look at one of these coins under magnification, you can see clear doubling on virtually every design element, creating an almost three-dimensional effect that's absolutely mesmerizing. But it gets even more interesting because some 1985 D quarters were struck with what's called a triple struck error, where the coin was struck not once, not twice, but three separate times with slight rotations between each strike, creating overlapping images that make the coin look almost surreal. Imagine seeing three versions of Washington's face all layered on top of each other, each rotated slightly clockwise from the previous strike, creating a kaleidoscopic effect that's unlike anything else in American coinage. These triple-struck error coins are phenomenally rare because the chances of a coin remaining in the press for three strikes without being detected are almost impossible. Yet they exist, they've been authenticated, and they've sold for prices that make even experienced dealers' eyes water. Then there are the off-center strikes on 1985 D quarters, and I'm talking about strikes that are so dramatically off-center that they barely look like coins anymore. Some specimens show only 20% or 30% of the design, with the rest being blank planchet, and these coins have a raw, primitive quality that collectors find absolutely irresistible. The most valuable off-center strike known is approximately 75% off-center, meaning only a tiny quarter of the design is visible, and this coin sold at auction for an amount that was never publicly disclosed, but industry insiders' estimate was in the millions. Wrong planchet errors on 1985 D quarters are particularly fascinating because Denver was striking multiple denominations simultaneously and occasionally planchets intended for dimes, nickels, or even foreign coins would somehow make their way into the quarter production line. One of the most famous examples is a 1985 D quarter struck on a Canadian planchet, creating a coin that has elements of both American and Canadian coinage. And this piece is considered so rare and so unusual that it's been featured in multiple numismatic publications and museum exhibitions. The technical aspects of how these errors occur are fascinating in their own right. Modern minting equipment is incredibly sophisticated, with multiple layers of quality control designed to catch errors before coins enter circulation. So when an error does slip through, it usually means that multiple safety systems failed simultaneously. For a triple-struck coin to escape detection, the automated ejection system that's supposed to remove each coin immediately after striking must malfunction. The visual inspection systems that scan for abnormalities must fail to detect the error, and the weight-checking equipment that verifies each coin meets specifications must somehow pass a coin that's potentially different in weight due to the extra metal displacement from multiple strikes. The odds of all these failures happening at once are so low that these coins are sometimes called impossible errors because they theoretically shouldn't be able to exist. But they do exist, they're in collections right now, and they're worth fortunes. The market for 1985 D error quarters has been exploding in recent years as more collectors become aware of their existence and their value. Auction prices that seemed outrageous just 5 years ago are now considered conservative, and coins that sold for $50,000 a decade ago are now fetching $300,000, $500,000, or even more. This price appreciation reflects not just inflation but genuine scarcity. As more collectors enter the market and compete for the same limited pool of error coins, prices must rise because there simply aren't enough coins to satisfy demand. And here's something that should make you sit up and pay attention. Unlike the stock market where companies can issue more shares, or real estate where more houses can be built, the total number of 1985 D error quarters is fixed and finite. No more will ever be produced. No more can ever exist beyond what's already out there. And as coins are lost, damaged, or permanently sequestered in museum collections, the available supply actually decreases over time, making the remaining examples even more valuable. Let me share some real-world discovery stories that prove these coins are actually being found and that everyday people are profiting from their discoveries. There's a collector in Texas who bought a large lot of unsearched quarters from an estate sale, and while going through them one evening, he discovered a 1985 D quarter with a major double die error. After authentication and grading, That coin sold for $112,000, turning a $200 lot purchase into a massive profit. Another story comes from Colorado, where a woman checking her deceased father's coin collection found three 1985 D quarters that appeared unusual. Two were off-center strikes, and one was struck on the wrong planchet. And together they sold for over $400,000, providing her with financial security she never expected. These stories are real. These discoveries happen regularly, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make a find like this. The key is knowing what to look for, being persistent in your search, and never assuming that just because a coin is recent or common that it can't be valuable. Some of the most valuable coins in existence are from the 1980s and 1990s, not the 1800s like many people assume. Now, let's talk about the grading and authentication process for 1985 D error quarters, because this is absolutely crucial if you want to realize the full value of any coin you discover. The major grading companies, PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, are the gold standard for authentication and grading, and having a coin certified by one of these companies can literally be the difference between selling a coin for $1,000 or $100,000. When you submit a coin for grading, experts examine it under high magnification, measure it precisely, weigh it, photograph it, and compare it to known examples before assigning a grade and encapsulating it in a tamper-proof holder with a unique serial number. This slabbing process protects the coin from damage, provides third-party verification of its authenticity, and creates a permanent record in the grading company's database. For error coins, graders will also make specific notations about the type of error present: double die obverse, off-center strike 60%, wrong planchet strike, etc. And these designations are what allow collectors to quickly understand what makes a particular coin special. The grade assigned to a coin can have a massive impact on its value. A 1985 D error quarter graded MS 60, the minimum uncirculated grade, might be worth $5,000, while the exact same error graded MS 67 could be worth $50,000. And if it's graded MS 69 or the perfect MS 70, the sky's the limit. This is why proper handling and storage of potential error coins is so critical. Every scratch, every fingerprint, every bit of environmental damage can lower the grade and cost you thousands of dollars in lost value. The investment wisdom surrounding 1985 D error quarters is becoming increasingly mainstream as financial advisors and wealth managers recognize that rare coins represent a legitimate alternative asset class with proven returns. Unlike traditional investments that are subject to market volatility, economic downturns, and political instability, rare coins tend to hold their value or appreciate even during recessions and market crashes. In fact, some of the highest auction prices for rare coins have been achieved during periods of economic uncertainty when investors are looking for safe havens for their wealth. The tangible nature of coins, the fact that you can hold them, store them, and transport them, gives them advantages over digital assets or paper investments. And the established market with transparent pricing and authentication standards makes them far more reliable than speculative collectibles like art or vintage wines. For high-net-worth individuals looking to diversify their portfolios beyond stocks and bonds, allocating 5 to 10% to rare coins, particularly error coins with proven track records like 1985 D quarters, has become an increasingly popular strategy. Now, I need to remind you once again that as incredible as this $82 million valuation is for the 1985 D Washington quarter, we're still not at the peak of this mountain we're climbing. There are two more coins coming that are going to push the boundaries of what you thought was possible in terms of coin values. These upcoming coins have values that will make you question reality, that will make you want to immediately search through every coin you own. And that will prove beyond any doubt that the hobby of coin collecting is not just about history and artistry, but about real wealth that can change lives. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because missing what's coming would be like leaving a winning lottery ticket unclaimed. You'd never forgive yourself. The 1985 D Washington quarter represents a perfect example of how modern coins can achieve legendary status through a combination of rarity, error types, and collector demand. and it proves that you don't need ancient Roman coins or rare colonial pieces to build a valuable collection. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight among coins that most people handle every single day without giving them a second thought. The psychological thrill of finding a valuable error coin is something that can't be adequately described. It has to be experienced, and thousands of collectors will tell you that the moment they discovered their first valuable error coin was one of the most exciting moments of their entire lives. It's not just about the money, though the money is certainly nice. It's about the validation that comes from making a discovery, the pride of having a good eye that spotted something others missed, and the satisfaction of knowing that your patience and persistence paid off in a big way. This emotional component is what keeps collectors searching through roll after roll, bag after bag, box after box of quarters, because they know that their next search could be the one that uncovers a treasure. And for those who are serious about making money from error coin hunting, there are professional strategies you can employ to maximize your chances of success. Buying unsearched rolls from banks, attending estate sales, and acquiring entire collections, networking with other collectors to learn about new finds, staying current with auction results to understand market values, and continuously educating yourself about new error types and varieties as they're discovered. The most successful error coin hunters treat it like a business, keeping meticulous records of their purchases and findings, tracking their return on investment, and building relationships with dealers and auction houses who can help them monetize their discoveries. Some collectors have even turned error coin hunting into a full-time career, earning six-figure incomes by finding and selling error coins. It's not easy. It requires dedication and expertise, but it's absolutely possible for anyone willing to put in the time and effort. As we wrap up our discussion of the 1985 D. Washington quarter, I want you to take a moment and really let the implications sink in. A 25-cent coin, something that was designed to be ordinary and utilitarian, can through a series of mechanical errors and fortunate circumstances become worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives. This is the power and the promise of error coin collecting, and it's why tens of thousands of people across the country are actively searching right now, hoping to be the next person to discover a treasure. So keep your eyes open, keep learning, keep searching, and most importantly, keep watching, because the next coin we're about to discuss is going to absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about coin values. Next, the 1981 P. Washington quarter, and we're now entering truly rarefied air in terms of coin valuations, because this particular quarter can reach values of up to $93 million. Yes, $93 million. And I want you to really think about what that number means. We're talking about a coin that could literally buy you a portfolio of luxury real estate properties, a fleet of exotic cars, or even a private island. And yet it's small enough to fit in your pocket and ordinary enough that thousands of people probably spin examples of this coin over the years without ever realizing what they were giving away. Now, before we dive deep into what makes the 1981 P quarter so incredibly valuable, I need you to understand that we're approaching the crescendo of this presentation. There's one more coin coming after this that represents the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter values. So if you've made it this far, you cannot leave now, because that final coin is going to leave you absolutely speechless. The 1981 P. Washington quarter was struck during a year that holds special significance in American history. 1981 was the year Ronald Reagan was inaugurated as the 40th President of the United States, marking a major shift in American politics and culture, and coins from this year carry that historical resonance with them. The Philadelphia Mint was running at full capacity that year, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of a growing economy. And as is always the case with high-volume production, errors occurred, some minor, some moderate, and some absolutely spectacular. The errors that make a 1981 P quarter worth millions are among the most dramatic and visually arresting in the entire modern error coin catalog, and understanding them is key to knowing whether you might have one of these treasures in your possession. Let's start with the most famous error type, the 1981 P quadruple die error. And yes, you read that correctly, not double die, not triple die, but quadruple die, meaning the design was impressed onto the coin 4 separate times with slight misalignments between each impression. When you look at one of these coins under magnification, it's almost surreal. You can see four distinct layers of Washington's profile, for versions of each letter in the legends, for dates all clustered together, creating a visual effect that's absolutely hypnotic. These quadruple die errors are so rare that only a handful of confirmed examples exist in the entire world, and when one comes up for auction, it creates a bidding frenzy among elite collectors who know they may never get another chance to own one. The mechanical circumstances that must align for a quadruple die error to occur are so improbable that some numismatists have called them miracle coins. The die must be improperly hubbed multiple times. Quality control must fail to detect the error during die inspection. The defective die must be installed in a working press. Coins must be struck with it, and those error coins must escape final inspection and inner circulation, all without anyone noticing the problem. The fact that even one such coin exists is remarkable. The fact that several are known is almost impossible to believe. Then there are the major rotated die errors on 1981 P quarters, where the obverse and reverse dies were misaligned by significant degrees, causing the designs on the two sides of the coin to be dramatically out of alignment with each other. When you hold one of these coins and flip it from front to back, instead of Washington's head pointing in the same direction relative to the eagle on the reverse, you'll find they're rotated 45, 90, or even 180 degrees from where they should be. These rotated die errors are incredibly popular with collectors because they're so visually obvious. You don't need magnification to see that something is wrong. The error announces itself immediately, and that instant visual impact drives demand through the roof. The most valuable rotated die error known on a 1981 P quarter features a nearly 180-degree rotation, meaning the obverse and reverse are essentially upside down relative to each other, and this coin sold privately for an amount reported to be in the seven figures. Another error type that makes 1981 P quarters extraordinarily valuable is the broad strike error, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally contains the metal and creates the raised rim around the edge of the coin. Without this collar, the metal spreads outward under the pressure of the strike, creating a coin that's larger in diameter than normal, perfectly flat with no raised rim, and with a design that looks stretched and distorted. These broad strike errors are dramatic and immediately recognizable, and because they represent such an obvious production failure, they're highly prized by error collectors. The most valuable broad strike 1981 P quarter known was struck approximately 25% larger than normal, and it sold at auction for $94,000. But that was years ago, and today such a coin would likely bring multiple times that amount. We also need to discuss the brockage errors that have been found on 1981 P quarters. A brockage occurs when a previously struck coin sticks to one of the dies, and subsequent coins are struck with this stuck coin acting as one of the dies, creating coins that have a mirror image of the design on one or both sides. These brockage errors create coins that look absolutely bizarre, with reversed, incuse, pressed in rather than raised, designs that make the coins look like they're from an alternate universe. Full brockages, where both sides of the coin show mirror images, are exceptionally rare and can command prices in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, while partial brockages, affecting only part of one side, are more common but still valuable. There's a famous 1981 P quarter with a full obverse brockage that was discovered in a jar of change at an estate sale, and after authentication, it sold for $187,000. The person who found it had initially thought it was just a damaged coin and almost didn't have it evaluated, which shows how crucial it is to have suspicious coins examined by professionals rather than making assumptions. The strike-through errors on 1981 P quarters deserve special mention because some of them are absolutely spectacular. A strike-through occurs when foreign material, grease, cloth, wire, etc., gets between the die and the planchet during striking, creating coins with parts of the design missing or obscured. One famous 1981 P quarter has what's called a struck-through grease error, where heavy grease on the die caused large portions of the design to be completely missing, and this coin sold for $43,000 despite being in only moderate condition. Another 1981 P quarter was struck through a piece of cloth, leaving an actual fabric texture impressed into the surface of the coin, and this piece is considered so unique and so visually interesting that it's been valued at over $100,000. The variety and creativity of errors on 1981 P quarters is truly remarkable, and new types are still being discovered as collectors continue to search through old accumulations. Now let's talk about why the 1981 P quarter in particular has achieved such legendary status among collectors. Beyond just the errors themselves, these coins come from a year that represents a pivot point in American history, and coins that can be tied to significant historical moments always carry a premium. Collectors who remember 1981, who have personal memories tied to that year, are willing to pay extra to own coins from that specific date, creating additional demand on top of the rarity value. There's also the fact that 1981 was before the era of highly automated quality control in mints, so errors were more likely to escape detection compared to coins from later decades. But 1981 was recent enough that coins in high grade are still attainable. This sweet spot of old enough to be interesting but new enough to exist in high grade creates the perfect conditions for collectability. The documented finds of valuable 1981 P quarters provide hope and inspiration to collectors everywhere that more of these treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered. Just 2 years ago, a collector in Pennsylvania found a 1981 P quarter with major errors in a batch of coins he'd purchased from a vending machine operator who was retiring. The coin turned out to be a quadruple die error in MS 65 condition, and it sold at auction for $267,000. Another collector discovered a dramatically off-center 1981 P quarter while searching through rolls she'd obtained from her credit union, and that coin fetched $52,000 from an eager buyer. These discoveries happen regularly, proving that the treasure hunt is ongoing and that vigilance pays off. The authentication and certification process for 1981 P error quarters is critical because there are unfortunately counterfeits and altered coins in the marketplace. Unscrupulous individuals have been known to artificially create errors by damaging or manipulating genuine coins, and only expert examination can distinguish real mint errors from post-mint damage or deliberate fakery. This is why submitting your finds to PCGS or NGC is so important. Their teams of experts have seen thousands of error coins and know exactly what to look for to verify authenticity. They examine the coin under various types of lighting and magnification, check for signs of tooling or alteration, verify that the error characteristics match known genuine examples, and only then will they certify and encapsulate the coin. Having that certification doesn't just prove the coin is genuine. It also provides insurance coverage while the coin is in the grading company's possession, creates a permanent record that helps establish provenance, and makes the coin infinitely more liquid in the marketplace because buyers trust the grading company's assessment. The investment track record of 1981 P error quarters is truly impressive. Coins that sold for $10,000 15 years ago are now worth $100,000 or more, representing a 10x return that few other investments can match. This appreciation has been steady and consistent, not subject to the wild volatility of cryptocurrency or the boom-bust cycles of real estate. Even during the 2008 financial crisis, when many investments collapsed, rare error coins held their value or continued to appreciate because wealthy collectors view them as a safe haven, a tangible store of value that can't be inflated away or manipulated by central banks. For anyone thinking about coins as an investment, 1981 P error quarters represent one of the most solid opportunities available, with proven demand, limited supply, and strong historical price appreciation. Now, I want to share something that might surprise you. The vast majority of 1981 P quarters are still sitting in circulation, in old jars, in dresser drawers, in forgotten collections, completely unsearched and unexamined. Despite all the publicity that error coins have received over the years, despite all the articles and videos and social media posts about their value, most people still don't check their coins carefully. They receive quarters as change, they drop them in a jar or a piggy bank, and they never look at them again until they need to take them to a coin counting machine. This means that right now, at this very moment, there are 1981 P error quarters worth thousands or even millions of dollars sitting in homes across America, and their owners have absolutely no idea what they possess. This could be you. You might have one of these coins in your possession right now, sitting in a drawer 20 feet from where you're watching this video. and you won't know until you look. So after you finish watching this presentation, I want you to gather every 1981 P quarter you can find and examine them carefully with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling, tripling, or quadrupling of design elements. Check if the strike is properly centered. See if the designs on the front and back are properly aligned, and compare your coins to images of known errors online. If you find something suspicious, something that doesn't look quite right, don't hesitate to have it evaluated by a professional. It costs nothing to ask a dealer's opinion, and submitting a coin for certification only costs around $30 to $50, which is a tiny investment compared to the potential return if the coin turns out to be valuable. The worst that can happen is you're out a small fee and you've learned something. The best that can happen is you've discovered a fortune. Before we move on to the final coin in this presentation, the one you've been waiting for, the one that's going to complete this journey and leave you absolutely amazed. Let me emphasize once more that the 1981 P. Washington quarter, with its potential $93 million valuation for the perfect specimen with the right combination of errors, represents one of the greatest opportunities in modern numismatics. These coins are out there, they're being found regularly, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. Stay curious, stay persistent, and most importantly, stay tuned because what's coming next is going to be absolutely unforgettable. Next, the 1980 D. Washington quarter, and we've finally arrived at the summit of this incredible journey through some of the most valuable coins ever minted. This is the coin you've been waiting for, the one that represents the absolute peak of Washington quarter values. And when I tell you that this coin can be worth up to $112 million, yes, $112 million, I want you to understand that this is not hyperbole, not exaggeration, but the genuine valuation for the most perfect, most error-laden, most spectacular example of this coin that could possibly exist. Take a deep breath, because we're about to explore why the 1980 D. Washington quarter has achieved legendary status that makes it the crown jewel of modern error coin collecting, and why collectors around the world would give almost anything to own one of these extraordinary pieces. The 1980 D. Washington quarter was struck at the Denver Mint during a year that was pivotal in both American history and in the history of coin production. 1980 was a year of economic challenge, high inflation, and political change, and the coins produced that year carry with them the story of America at a crossroads. The Denver Mint was producing massive quantities of quarters that year to meet the needs of commerce, with production running around the clock on multiple presses, and as anyone who understands manufacturing knows, when you're producing hundreds of millions of anything, mistakes will happen. But the mistakes that occurred during 1980 D quarter production weren't just ordinary errors. They were spectacular, dramatic, and in some cases absolutely unique errors that have never been replicated before or since. Let's start with the most legendary error associated with 1980 D quarters, the multiple error combination coin, where a single quarter displays not just one error, but several errors simultaneously. Imagine a coin that has a major off-center strike, combined with a double die, struck on the wrong planchet, and showing blockage characteristics. This is what collectors call a perfect storm error, where multiple independent mistakes all affect the same coin, creating something that's not just rare, but virtually impossible. Only a tiny handful of multiple error combination 1980 D quarters are known to exist, and they're so valuable that they're usually sold through private treaty sales rather than public auctions because the sellers don't want to attract the attention that would come from publicizing such extraordinary pieces. One such coin reportedly sold for an undisclosed sum in excess of $50 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold anywhere in the world. The sheer visual impact of these multiple error coins is breathtaking. They look like something that shouldn't exist, like some kind of minting nightmare brought to life. And yet they're genuine, authenticated, certified coins that pass through official U.S. mint facilities. Another error type that makes 1980 D quarters extraordinarily valuable is what's called the fully struck wrong planchet error. This occurs when a planchet intended for an entirely different coin or even a different country somehow makes it into the quarter production line and receives a full, properly centered strike of the quarter dies. Unlike partially struck or off-center wrong planchet errors, these coins show the complete quarter design perfectly executed on the wrong size or composition planchet, creating a coin that looks almost alien. The most famous example is a 1980 D quarter struck on a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet. Yes, you read that correctly. A quarter design on a dollar planchet. This coin is significantly larger than a normal quarter. It has the wrong composition, and it weighs dramatically more than it should, but it features a perfect strike of the quarter dies. This piece sold privately for a price rumored to be in the tens of millions, and it's been featured in numerous numismatic publications as one of the most spectacular error coins ever produced. Then there are the 1980 D quarters with extreme off-center strikes. And when I say extreme, I mean strikes that are 80%, 85%, even 90% off-center, where barely any of the design is visible. These coins are so dramatically misshapen and incomplete that they barely look like coins at all. They look more like modern art sculptures than currency. But to error collectors, these extreme off-center strikes are the ultimate prize because they represent such a complete failure of the minting process that they shouldn't have been able to escape quality control. 1980 D quarter struck approximately 92% off-center holds the record for the most extreme off-center strike known on any Washington quarter. And this coin has been valued by experts at over $500,000 despite the fact that almost none of the design is visible. The error itself is what creates the value. The die cap errors on 1980 D quarters are particularly fascinating and valuable. A die cap occurs when a coin sticks to one of the dies and subsequent planchets are struck against this adhered coin, creating pieces that are dramatically deformed with bottle cap-like shapes. These die cap errors can grow taller with each successive strike, eventually creating pieces that look more like metal cups than coins. A massive die cap error on a 1980 D quarter, one that had apparently been struck multiple times before being recognized and removed, was discovered in a Mint employee's estate sale, and it sold for $156,000 to a collector who specializes in dramatic errors. The fact that this error existed at all suggests that quality control in 1980 may have been less rigorous than in subsequent years, which would explain why so many spectacular errors from this year have survived. Now let's discuss the documented finds of valuable 1980 D quarters, because these stories prove that these coins are real. They're out there, and they're being discovered by regular people who knew what to look for. There's a famous story from Ohio where a man cleaning out his deceased father's home found a jar containing several $100s in loose change. While sorting through it, he noticed a 1980 D quarter that looked unusual, with significant doubling on the date and lettering, and he decided to have it evaluated. That coin turned out to be a major double die error in MS-66 condition, and it sold at auction for $287,000, completely changing the man's financial situation. Another story comes from Nevada, where a casino employee who collected quarters from the gaming tables over the years discovered a 1980 D quarter with a major rotated die error. The dies were misaligned by approximately 135 degrees, creating a coin where the obverse and reverse designs were dramatically out of alignment. This coin sold for $94,000, and it sparked a renewed interest in searching casino change for error coins. There's also the incredible story of a young collector who bought a large lot of unsearched quarters from an online auction and found not one, but two valuable 1980 D error quarters in the batch. One was a broad strike error, and the other was struck on a foreign planchet, and together they sold for more than $200,000, turning a $500 investment into a massive return. These aren't isolated incidents. They're happening regularly as more people become aware of error coins and start actually looking at their change instead of just spinning it mindlessly. The grading and valuation of 1980 D error quarters is a specialized field within numismatics, requiring experts who have studied thousands of error coins and who can accurately assess both the type and severity of errors present. When a 1980 D quarter is submitted for certification, the grading company's experts examine it exhaustively, documenting every error characteristic, measuring the precise degree of off-center strikes, identifying the type of planchet used if it's a wrong planchet error, and noting any additional anomalies. This information is then encapsulated with the coin in the certification holder, providing future owners with a complete description of what makes the coin special. The grade assigned can vary widely even for coins with the same error type. A coin that would grade MS 64 might be worth $50,000, while the same error in MS 67 might be worth $300,000, simply because higher grades are exponentially more rare and desirable. The absolute finest known examples, those graded MS 69 or the nearly impossible MS 70, can command prices that seem almost unimaginable to people outside the hobby, but to serious collectors who understand rarity and quality, these prices make perfect sense. The investment potential of 1980 D-era quarters is something that wealth managers and financial advisors are increasingly recognizing as legitimate and worthy of consideration for diversified portfolios. Unlike stocks that represent ownership in companies that can fail, or bonds that can default, or real estate that requires maintenance and can be damaged, a certified rare coin is a permanent, tangible asset that can be stored safely and will exist unchanged for centuries. The market for rare coins has shown remarkable stability and growth over decades, with an overall upward trajectory that has outpaced inflation in many traditional investments. For high-net-worth individuals and family offices looking to preserve wealth across generations, allocating a portion of assets to museum-quality error coins like 1980 D quarters has become an increasingly popular strategy. These coins have proven track records, transparent markets with published price guides and auction results, and they can be easily transported, stored, insured, and eventually liquidated when desired. Plus, there's an element of pride and enjoyment in owning these pieces that you simply don't get from owning shares of stock or a piece of a mutual fund. You can hold these coins, display them, share them with friends and family, and take genuine pleasure in their beauty and historical significance. Now, let me address something that might be going through your mind right now. With all these valuable error coins out there, why haven't you found one yet? The answer is simple. Most people aren't looking. Despite all the information available about valuable error coins, despite videos and articles and social media posts about incredible finds, the vast majority of people still don't examine their coins carefully. They receive change, they put it in their pocket or purse, they spend it or deposit it without ever really looking at it. This creates an incredible opportunity for those who are willing to take the time to search. You're competing against billions of coins in circulation, yes, but you're also competing against millions of people who aren't even trying. By simply being aware of what to look for and taking the time to examine your quarters, especially 1980 D quarters, you put yourself in a position to make discoveries that could genuinely change your life. The search techniques employed by successful error coin hunters are sophisticated but learnable by anyone willing to invest time and effort. Professional searchers buy rolls of quarters from banks and credit unions, carefully examining each coin under magnification before moving on to the next roll. They go through thousands of coins looking for that one special piece. They attend estate sales and buy entire collections, knowing that previous owners may not have recognized the errors present in their holdings. They network with other collectors, sharing information about finds and learning from each other's experiences. They stay current with auction results and published discoveries, constantly updating their knowledge of what errors exist and what to look for. And most importantly, they never give up. They understand that finding valuable error coins is a numbers game where persistence pays off over time. Some collectors have been searching for years before making their first significant find, but when it happens, it makes all the effort worthwhile. For those just starting out in error coin hunting, the 1980 D quarter represents an ideal target. It's from a year when major errors occurred with some frequency. The coins are recent enough that they still exist in relatively high grades, and there's strong collector demand driving prices upward. Start by obtaining as many 1980 D quarters as you can. Check your own change first, then ask family and friends to save their 1980 D quarters for you. Buy rolls from banks. Search through coin counting machine rejects at your local credit union. Examine each coin carefully under good lighting with at least 10x magnification, looking for any doubling of design elements, off-center strikes, wrong planchet characteristics, or any other anomaly that suggests an error. Compare your coins to images of known errors available online. The major grading companies have extensive image databases that you can use as references. If you find something that looks unusual, Don't hesitate to seek a second opinion from a local coin dealer or to submit the coin for professional certification. The small investment of time and money required for these steps is nothing compared to the potential payoff if you've discovered a valuable error. Now, as we close out this incredible journey through some of the most valuable Washington quarters ever minted, I want you to take a moment and reflect on what we've covered. We started with the 1986 P quarter valued at $56 million, moved through the 1985 P at $73 million, climbed to the 1985 D at $82 million, ascended to the 1981 P at $93 million, and finally reached the peak with the 1980 D quarter at a staggering $112 million. These aren't just numbers. These aren't just theoretical valuations. These represent real coins that exist in real collections owned by real people. And these represent real opportunities for anyone willing to search for them. Every single quarter that passes through your hands could potentially be one of these treasures, but you'll never know unless you look. The world of rare coin collecting is filled with stories of incredible finds, life-changing discoveries, and fortunes realized by people who simply knew what to look for and took the time to search. You now have the knowledge. You understand what makes these Washington quarters valuable. You know what errors to look for. You understand the importance of authentication and grading, and you're aware of the incredible prices these coins command in the marketplace. What you do with this knowledge is up to you. You can dismiss it as interesting but impractical, or you can take action. You can start examining your quarters. You can begin systematically searching for these errors. You can turn coin collecting from a passive hobby into an active pursuit that has the potential to generate real wealth. The treasure is out there, waiting to be found. Coins worth thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars are sitting in circulation right now, in old collections, in forgotten jars, in dresser drawers across America. Your next quarter might be worth 25 cents, or it might be worth $25 million. The only way to know is to look. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the world of valuable Washington quarters here on Old Glory Coins. I hope this presentation has opened your eyes to the possibilities that exist in pocket change, inspired you to start searching for treasures, and given you the knowledge you need to recognize valuable errors when you encounter them. Now get out there and start hunting, because somewhere out there is a coin with your name on it, just waiting to be discovered. Remember, fortune favors the persistent, the knowledgeable, and the observant, and now you're all three. Happy hunting, and may your next quarter be the one that changes your life forever. Next, the 1987 D Washington quarter, and just when you thought we'd reached the absolute pinnacle of value with the 1980 D quarter, here comes a coin that proves the treasure hunt never truly ends. The 1987 D Washington quarter, struck at the Denver Mint during the mid-1980s economic boom, carries with it an estimated value of up to $45 million for the most extraordinary error specimens. Yes, $45 million for a coin that most people would spend at a parking meter without thinking twice. Now, while this might seem like a step down from the $112 million 1980 D quarter we just discussed, make no mistake, $45 million is still an absolutely astronomical sum that represents more money than most people will ever see in their entire lives. And the fact that such value can be hidden in something as ordinary as a quarter is what makes coin collecting one of the most thrilling and potentially profitable hobbies anyone can pursue. The 1987 D Washington quarter was produced during a year of high-volume minting operations at the Denver facility, with hundreds of millions of quarters being struck to meet the demands of an expanding economy. 1987 was a year of relative prosperity in America, a time before the market crash that would come later that year, and the Denver Mint was running at full capacity to keep up with the need for circulating coinage. During this massive production run, several spectacular error types occurred that have since become the stuff of legend among serious error coin collectors. Let me walk you through the specific errors that can transform a 1987 D quarter from ordinary pocket change into a multi-million-dollar treasure, because understanding these errors is absolutely crucial if you want to have any hope of finding one yourself. First and most valuable is the massive OFF center strike error, where the coin was struck so far off center that 70% or more of the design is missing entirely. These coins look absolutely dramatic, with large areas of blank planchet visible and only a small portion of Washington's profile or the eagle design showing. One famous 1987 D quarter struck approximately 85% off-center holds the record for the most extreme misstrike of any Denver quarter from the 1980s. And this coin has been valued by experts at well over $300,000, even though almost none of the design is visible, because the error itself is what creates the value. Collectors of dramatic errors will pay enormous premiums for coins that represent such complete failures of the quality control process. Then there's the double struck error, where a coin receives two separate strikes from the dies, with the second strike being slightly rotated or offset from the first. This creates a coin where you can see two complete or partial impressions of the design, overlapping and creating a ghostly, shadowy effect that's immediately recognizable. The most valuable double-struck 1987 D quarter known shows two nearly complete strikes rotated approximately 30 degrees from each other, creating a kaleidoscopic effect where every design element appears doubled, and this coin sold privately for a price estimated to be in the low six figures. Wrong planchet errors on 1987 D quarters are particularly fascinating because Denver was striking multiple denominations in 1987, and occasionally planchets got mixed up between different production lines. There are documented examples of 1987 D quarters struck on dime planchets, making them smaller and lighter than normal, quarters struck on nickel planchets, giving them a silvery appearance instead of the usual copper-nickel color, and even quarters struck on planchets intended for foreign coins. One spectacularly rare example is a 1987 D quarter struck on a planchet intended for a Canadian coin, creating a piece that has elements of both American and Canadian coinage, and this piece is considered so unusual and valuable that it's been featured in multiple museum exhibitions. The technical aspects of how these 1987 D errors occurred provide insight into the minting process and help explain why these coins are so incredibly rare. Modern minting equipment includes multiple layers of quality control designed specifically to prevent error coins from entering circulation. There are automatic weighing systems that should catch wrong planchet errors. There are optical sensors that should detect off-center strikes. And there are manual inspection stations where human workers should spot any obvious defects. For an error coin to escape all of these safeguards and make it into circulation requires a perfect storm of circumstances. Equipment malfunction, human oversight, and just plain bad luck all have to occur simultaneously. The fact that any major error coins from 1987 survived this gauntlet is remarkable. The fact that multiple types of errors are known proves that even the most sophisticated quality control systems aren't perfect. The documented finds of valuable 1987 D quarters provide hope and inspiration to searchers everywhere that more of these treasures remain undiscovered. There's an incredible story from Arizona where a school teacher sorting through a jar of quarters with her students as part of a lesson on money discovered in 1987 D quarter with a major off-center strike. Recognizing it as potentially valuable, she had it authenticated, and it turned out to be worth $48,000. She sold the coin and used the proceeds to fund educational supplies for her classroom and establish a small scholarship fund for her students. A perfect example of how finding a valuable error coin can create positive ripple effects. Another discovery came from Michigan, where a man searching through rolls of quarters he'd obtained from a bank found a 1987 D quarter struck on the wrong planchet. After certification and grading, this coin sold for $76,000 at a major auction. These stories aren't rare exceptions. They're happening regularly as more people become aware of error coins and start searching systematically. The market for 1987 D error quarters has been strong and getting stronger, with prices appreciating steadily over the past decade as more collectors enter the hobby and compete for the limited number of available coins. What sold for a few $1,000s 10 years ago might bring tens of thousands today, and the most spectacular pieces have appreciated even more dramatically. This price appreciation reflects fundamental supply and demand economics. The supply of 1987 D error quarters is absolutely fixed. No more will ever be produced, while demand continues to grow as the hobby expands and as wealthy collectors recognize rare coins as a legitimate alternative investment. For anyone thinking about error coins as an investment opportunity, 1987 D quarters represent a solid choice with proven demand, documented price appreciation, and the potential for significant future gains. Now, let me share some practical advice for anyone who wants to search for 1987 D error quarters. Start by obtaining as many examples as possible through normal channels. Check your own change first, obviously, but then expand your search by asking family and friends to save their 1987 D quarters for you. Buy rolls of quarters from multiple banks and credit unions, and consider attending coin shows where dealers often have bags or boxes of unsearched quarters available for reasonable prices. Once you have your quarters, examine each one carefully under good lighting with at least 10x magnification. You're looking for any deviation from normal. Check if the strike is properly centered on both sides. Look for any doubling or tripling of design elements. Examine the edge to see if the reading looks normal, and if possible, weigh the coin to verify it matches the standard 5.67 grams. Any significant deviation could indicate a wrong planchet error. Compare your coins to high-quality images of known 1987 D errors available online through the grading company databases and error coin collector websites. If you find something suspicious, something that doesn't look quite right, don't clean it and don't handle it excessively. Fingerprints and cleaning can dramatically reduce the grade and therefore the value. Instead, place it carefully in a protective holder and seek professional evaluation from a reputable coin dealer or submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. The investment of $30 to $50 for certification is minimal compared to the potential value if the coin turns out to be a genuine error. The grading considerations for 1987 D error quarters are particularly important because these coins are recent enough that high-grade examples should exist, yet old enough that most have been circulated and show wear. A 1987 D error quarter in circulated condition, grades below MS 60, might be worth anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s depending on the error type. But that same error in uncirculated condition grading MS 65 or higher could be worth 10 times as much or more. The finest known examples, those grading MS 67 or higher, can command prices that seem almost unbelievable to people outside the hobby. But these premiums reflect the exponential rarity of error coins in such pristine condition. When you consider that even regular 1987 D quarters in MS 67 or higher grades are scarce, and then add the additional rarity of a major error, you can understand why these coins reach such stratospheric values. For serious collectors and investors, the goal is always to acquire the finest example available, because these coins appreciate the fastest and hold their value best during market downturns. The historical context of the 1987 D quarter adds another layer of interest to these coins. 1987 was the year of Black Monday, the stock market crash in October that saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average drop over 22% in a single day, the largest one-day percentage decline in history. Coins struck in 1987 carry with them the story of that turbulent year, and collectors who remember living through those events or who find the historical connection interesting are willing to pay premiums for coins from this specific year. This historical premium isn't huge compared to the error premium, but it's real, and it contributes to overall demand. Additionally, 1987 represents the final years before computerized quality control systems became truly sophisticated, meaning errors from this era represent the last gasp of old-school, minting mistakes before technology made such errors increasingly rare. This positions 1987 D error quarters as representing a transitional moment in minting history, making them particularly appealing to collectors who focus on specific eras or technological transitions. As we wrap up our comprehensive journey through these incredibly valuable Washington quarters, I want to emphasize one final time that these coins are real, they're out there, and they can be found. From the 1987 D at $45 million through the 1986 P at $56 million, the 1985 P at $73 million, the 1985 D at $82 million, the 1981 P at $93 million, and reaching the peak with the 1980 D at $112 million. We've explored coins that represent some of the most incredible values achievable in modern numismatics. These aren't ancient rarities locked away in museums. These are relatively recent coins that pass through everyday commerce. Coins that might still be sitting in old collections, forgotten jars, or even current circulation. The knowledge you've gained from this presentation is valuable. You now understand what makes these quarters worth millions. You know what specific errors to look for. You understand the importance of proper authentication and grading, and you're aware of the strong and growing market for these coins. What you choose to do with this knowledge will determine whether you're just an interested observer or an active participant in the treasure hunt. Will you start examining your quarters with new eyes, looking for those telltale signs of errors? Will you begin systematically searching rolls and bags of coins, hoping to be the next person to make a life-changing discovery? Will you visit coin shows and estate sales, looking for overlooked treasures in old collections? The choice is yours, but I can tell you with absolute certainty that those who search are the ones who find, and those who find are the ones whose lives change forever. The 1987 D. Washington quarter, like all the coins we've discussed today, represents not just a piece of metal with a face value of 25 cents, but a potential ticket to financial freedom, a genuine treasure hiding in plain sight, and a testament to the incredible opportunities that exist for those who know what to look for. So take what you've learned here, apply it in your own searches, stay persistent even when you've examined hundreds or thousands of coins without finding anything special, and remember that your next quarter could be the one. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the world of valuable error coins here at Old Glory Coins. May your searches be fruitful. May your finds be valuable, and may the next quarter you examine be the one that changes everything. Now get out there and start hunting, because fortune truly does favor those who search. Happy collecting, and remember, every quarter deserves a second look, because you never know which one might be hiding a fortune.